I wanted to start with a quote from Marianne Williamson. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure about you and around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates ours. That is, for me, one of the most powerful quotes. It's actually longer than a quote, it's a passage. And that is what I want you to think of today. Welcome to the Create Motivation webinar. And I wanted to start with that passage because I believe that everyone has a purpose in this world. And it's up to us to shine our light. And when we shine our light and live into our purpose, then it gives permission for other people to do the same. They see you shining your light. When you're creating motivation, this is an important thing to keep in mind, that what you want to create in your life matters. And that in itself can actually create motivation. So today, what I'll talk about, it's going to be around 30 minutes or so, a little bit less than that. I want to talk about why we don't sustain our motivation, what is getting in the way. I want to talk also about the three, actually, there's going to be 4 steps to creating and sustaining motivation. We'll go through that. We will also, the last thing is I will share how to use the 3 steps in creating motivation. Let's get started. I'm excited about this topic because many of my clients experience this difficulty with keeping their motivation. They'll say, I don't know why I can't keep motivated. I can't stay motivated. I procrastinate all the time. Why can someone else continue with what they need to do to reach their goal and I can't? Well, we all have experienced this lack of motivation or a decrease in motivation. And especially at the beginning of February, there's a percentage of people who don't even continue through January. When they set their January goals, they don't continue to reach those goals. They give up. And many will say it's because I just lacked the motivation. I wasn't motivated enough. So that is what we want to address today. Maybe you're feeling the same way. You're not consistent with what needs to get done to reach your goals, either your health or life goals. Many people give up on their goals midway through January and for sure by February. So why are we not sustaining our motivation? What is actually getting in the way? Well, there's a list. And I'm going to just go through a list that I've come up with, but you may actually have some more yourself that you think of. We don't sustain our motivation because In one way, we think it's because we procrastinate. We think it's our fault. We think there's something wrong with ourselves that we can't keep motivated. But I want to share something with you. It's not you, it's your brain, it's your thoughts about what you want to change in your life. That is what is getting in the way. So, what is getting in the way? We make things too complicated. We make things too hard. We take big actions. We want to do so many things all at once. We want to take the actions and we think they're the right actions, but they're not the actions that will actually lead to change. We think that doing one particular or two particular actions will lead to the change, but it won't. Change and improvement in a particular area of your life. What also is getting in the way of our motivation is we may not have support in our direct environment with our family, our friends, our coworkers. We may not know how to deal with the obstacles and we give up too early. That is so many of us. And that is one area that I work on with my clients is how to overcome the obstacles that come in their way that make them not want to continue when they think it's, well, it's me, I'm just not motivated. It could be that there are specific obstacles and they're giving up way too early. What else is getting in the way is we're not getting or celebrating and recognizing small wins. We're looking for the big win. We're looking for the 20-pound weight loss, or we're looking for the no stress in your life after meditating for 1 or 2 days. We're not looking at the small wins and celebrating. We're relying on other people and other things to provide us motivation. How many of you have gone on to social media and scroll through social media thinking that you're going to find something as you're scrolling through and you're going to be looking at something inspirational? And I think that is awesome for us to go and gather inspiration. However, when it becomes that you are always tapping in and not even actually getting any inspiration, it makes you feel worse when you're looking at people achieving what they possibly may be achieving on social media. So what gets in our way with motivation is that we're relying on other people to give us motivation. We're relying on that friend to show up so we can actually do the workout with them. We're relying on someone else to cook a meal and choose a healthier choice at the restaurant versus you choosing the healthier choice. So there's a couple other things that get in the way of us sustaining and creating motivation. We get bored. After 2 or 3 weeks, the novelty has worn off in working towards a goal and we get bored. It's work. Oh, it's drudgery, getting up early, working out, making your meal prep, choosing healthier foods. It could also be when you're meditating that you're bored with the meditation that you're doing. Also, another thing that can get in the way of creating and sustaining motivation is that we're not ready to make the change yet. We want to make a change, but the change may be too big. And that's part of working with a coach, is to identify, well, what would be a more realistic action step for and goal towards your future that you'd like to live, either the healthier lifestyle that you'd like to live, less stress, more productivity. And the last thing is what gets in our way of sustaining and creating motivation is that we want things to be perfect. And that's where that perfectionism comes in. Nothing is perfect. And we discover this after a while, but our brain keeps going back to, Why can't we do something with more perfection? Why is, and when we don't have this perfection action, if we don't do a workout perfectly, or let's say it's a 30-minute workout and we only can get 10 minutes in, well, we're not going to do the workout because 10 minutes won't, it's not perfect. It's not worth it. Those are the things that just chip away at our ability to create and sustain motivation. I'm really excited about sharing the simple but challenging steps in creating and sustaining motivation. With these 3 steps, and I added a 4th one as a bonus, we can solve for why we're not motivated and why we're not sustaining the motivation. All of those things that I mentioned just a few moments ago, all of the things that are getting in our way for creating and sustaining motivation, these 4 steps can address and solve for those problems. So make sure that you have a pen handy, or you can always rewind this and listen again. All right, so who's excited? Let's get started. The first step is clarity. Clarity is defined as having clearness, precision, simplicity. Having clarity on the outcome, on the result that you want in your life will help you solve for these problems that we discovered or that I just went through in the reason of why you're not sustaining motivation. So when you have clarity, we can solve for your brain's ability that it doesn't want to make certain changes. When you have clarity, you give your brain the clearness, the simplicity of what you want to achieve. So the obstacle of not creating motivation was you weren't sure what actions to take. But when you have clarity, you solve for that problem. You solve for that obstacle. Because when you have clarity and when you're focused on taking those steps towards the goal that you want, the action to reach that outcome or result will show up. I often have my clients brainstorm a list when they become clear on what they want to achieve, what results they want to achieve. I have them pull out a piece of paper and brainstorm all the steps, not in order, just to brainstorm. It's like a brain dump, and write out all of the actions that they could possibly do to help them reach the outcome that they want. But they had to start with the clarity. They had to start with the knowing what they wanted, not what someone else wanted, not what someone on social media wanted, or a friend who has also a health goal, but clarity in their own life on what they want to achieve in their health and life. When we have clarity, we realize that we don't need to take big actions. We can take small, measurable actions day by day that will exponentially result in the big results that will transition into the big result that we want. When you have clarity, you get rid of the complication. You know, one of the obstacles I mentioned to getting motivated and sustaining motivation was we make things too complicated. Our brain will make things complicated, and because it's trying to keep you safe, so it will say, the brain will say, it is too complicated, it's unsafe, you shouldn't do it. But when you have clarity in the goal that you want to achieve, you push away that complication. It becomes simple. It becomes straightforward. Every day you look at your goal, you look at the clarity, you create the clarity, you feel the clarity. Also, when you create and focus on clarity, you get rid of the difficulty. Not saying that it's not challenging, but we have more simplicity. When we have clarity, there's more simplicity in our actions. We don't make things hard. We look for the most productive way of creating our results. The other thing about clarity that I want to share is it really pushes away all the, maybe you have 10 goals that you wanted, that you possibly you set 5 to 10 goals at the beginning of the year. When you have clarity, your goals could go down to 1 or 2. That really, when you got clear on what you wanted with your life, that it amounted to 1 or 2 goals. And that itself makes it so much more doable. All right, so that is the first step. Get clear. Now, by the way, all of these start with a C. Just, I like little acronyms and making things very succinct. So the second one is the second C, and that's commitment. Commitment means that you're dedicated to an activity daily, weekly, monthly, in order to achieve an outcome. And I'll tell you what, all of these steps, they're linear, but they're also circular. It means that you always need to come back to what is your clarity. Are you clear about what you're working on? Do you have a commitment? And we'll go on to the next one in another moment. But I wanted just to address that. When you say you're committed today, tomorrow you have to say you're committed. The next day you have to say you're committed. It's not a one and done. It is a continuous circular step, almost like a cycle that I'm giving you. First clarity, then commitment. When you have commitment in your what you'd like to achieve in your life, you will not get stuck on the obstacles. You will rise above the obstacles. When you have commitment, you'll celebrate the small wins. When you have commitment, you will take committed action. You will take intentional action when you have commitment towards your goal. When you have commitment, you can overcome boredom. You know, when I mentioned that by the mid-January, end of January, people are bored about their goal and what they're doing. When you have commitment, you're looking at new ways to keep it spicy, to keep it exciting. When you have commitment, you don't rely on other people. You rely on yourself. You get it done. You put it down in your planner and you get it done. You have commitment to yourself. And that's a big one that I have been continually working on. I have a thought, a phrase that I'll say, I keep commitments to myself. I keep commitments to myself. That raises the bar. That means I rely on myself. I don't rely on other people for circumstances to line up, for people to line up. I create my results and I am committed to my results. Now, the third step, the third C, is consistency. Consistency is continuing with actions day after day to create the result, the desired result. Consistency, think of habits. Habits is a really great analogy to consistency. We need to be consistent day upon day, week upon week, month upon month to make that outcome true for our life. When you have consistency, you Rely on yourself to overcome obstacles that you don't have to worry about everything being perfect. Also, with consistency and habits, you've created routines. That is a big area that I work on with my clients, is habits and routines. When you have a habit and routine, it makes it easier. It's less brain energy. So your brain can continue, and that creates the motivation to continue because you have more brain energy to put towards keeping motivated. You also, when you're consistent with your actions, it becomes second nature. You will do certain actions that maybe a month before would have been very challenging for you to do. But now, because you've done it consistently day upon day, makes it so much easier. I remember when a friend of mine had told me back when our kids were little that she would wake up early to work out. I thought she was crazy. I was like, I am not waking up early. I already don't get enough sleep. But after realizing that I was using that as the obstacle, and really, if I wanted to get a workout in and get my mindset right, I needed to wake up early. And that one thing of me waking up early and working out has evolved into a morning motivational routine that I share with my clients. I get them to incorporate and implement a morning routine that has changed the trajectory of my life just by waking up early. And I know you've heard it before. Productivity gurus and all around have said, wake up early, but it's not just wake up early. I help my clients to really create an intentional morning routine so they can create the mindset and start with that motivating mindset that they need for the rest of the day. So consistency for me has come from waking up early. Consistency, I know, can be challenging, but it is doable. And once you create that consistency, then the motivation just takes over and you do it regardless. Because if you don't do the action, you feel like something is missing. Whenever I miss a morning, which doesn't happen often, maybe once a month that I may not have a morning routine, I feel it for the rest of the day. I'm always feeling a little behind. So creating that consistency is so important to create and sustain motivation. The last area is celebration. You want to celebrate the small wins. I woke up early and did a little bit of movement and a little meditation for 10 minutes. That is a win. Even though you might have wanted to do 30 minutes, but just by doing 1 or 2 mornings of waking up early, getting in your routine, even if it's just for 10 minutes, that is a win. I think a lot of us don't celebrate. We don't celebrate our wins because we think it's not enough. We live in a society which really focuses on big, flashy action, big things. And we minimize the small things, but let's celebrate the small wins. And that will help you to create and sustain the motivation. And just even today, this morning, I was working with a client and she was thinking of her 1 month goal and her weekly goal. And she chose something that would have been a 1 month goal, but she wanted to do it in a week. So we talked about the idea of don't make it so hard for yourself. Pick something that you're almost 90% sure if you do a few action steps in the week, you'll get it done. And then you'll have a small win. And that small win will be a motivational momentum that will create more actions. That is, I think, a really huge step that most of us miss, is that we don't celebrate. We don't just pause and pat ourselves on the back. It doesn't mean that you're celebrating with extra food and wine or a beverage. It means that you're celebrating, you're recognizing, you're saying, hey, I did this. I am proud of myself, and I know I can do more. Well, with those, I wanted to give you a couple of other ideas. Along with consistency, I talked about habits and routines. You really want a time management system where you are using a daily, weekly, and monthly planning. That's something that I help my clients in creating, is a time management system. For consistency, you also want to check in on how you're doing. How are you progressing? And also what is really important is you want to adjust goals and your actions every week. If you are not getting the results, don't keep doing the same actions. Change them. That will then lead to results and celebrating the small wins, and it will keep you motivated. When we look at clarity, you can consider, I'm not sure if you've heard of limited versus growth mindset. When we have a limited mindset, we think that the way things are right now in our life is fixed. It's also called a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. But when we have a growth mindset, it means that we can achieve new things. We can change our life. We can look to others for support. When you're looking at clarity in what you want for your life, if you're having difficulty in clearly articulating what you want in your life, it could be that you are stuck in a fixed mindset and you need to work on shifting to a growth mindset. And in coaching, that's what I continually help my coaching clients with, is to shift to a growth mindset. With clarity, you want to know who, not how. You want to know who you want to be versus how you're actually going to achieve it all. When you start with who and how you want, who you want to be, who the person is, how they are acting, how they are talking, how they feel, that person, that who, that will help you in gaining clarity. The last thing about commitment, a very powerful question you can ask yourself: what would happen if you currently stayed where you are? If you continued to take the same actions, if you stayed right where you are, what would happen? Well, physically, with people, if they continue on a unhealthy lifestyle pathway, they're looking at chronic disease, chronic anxiety, immobility. The stress is a huge predictor of chronic and acute disease. So it means that people, I know when I was working in the hospital, doctors couldn't identify why someone had a stroke. And then they finally said it was a stress. So what would happen if you stayed where you are right now? What would you miss out on? Would you miss out on time with family and friends? Would you miss out on your grandkids? Would you miss out on living out your purpose, that you have a glimmer of something you want to do with your life? Would you miss out on that? And that is very powerful. That will help you with your commitment. That will help you in creating the commitment, and that itself will create the motivation. Well, that is what I have for you today. The 4 C's of creating motivation. Thank you so much for joining me today. Make sure that you're following me on Instagram, Heather Colwich on Instagram, and also check out the Healthy Brain podcast. If you would like to set up a coaching consultation, just email me at heathercolwichwellness@gmail.com. Colwich is Kolwich. And you can also reach out on Instagram for DM me, and I will chat and we'll get to know each other. Thank you so much for joining me for this webinar. Take care, everyone. Namaste.